Hello, welcome to this very quick demonstration to get you up and running with School Analytics. I'm going to use School Analytics Core and Attendance as my example here. There is a Behaviour and Suspensions option. I'm going to concentrate on Core and Attendance because the principles I'll show you apply to all Power BI reports. So this is a very varied session that you'll be able to use in many different places. First thing to notice here is that I'm in a web browser. So I'm in a web browser and basically I've just gone to a website called app.powerbi.com. And if you tap that into any web browser, it doesn't matter which one, you will be possibly initially prompted to enter your school login ID and password. Once you pass that, you'll get a page that looks something like this. Microsoft do tend to change it from time to time, but it'll look something like this page. School Analytics will have probably been installed in what's called a workspace. Workspaces are just like subdirectories where we can organize our reports. And workspaces are accessed by going over to this far left-hand side of the screen and clicking on the icon that says Workspaces. And when you do, you'll see you'll get access to all the workspaces that you've been given access to by your admin. In this particular case, I've just got one workspace available. It's called School Analytics. Yours might be called something slightly different, but something along the line of School Data Analysis or something like that. Click on that, and within that, you will see at least one report. So you should see at least one line on this screen here, which will be the report. You'll notice the report because it's got that little report icon alongside it, and it's probably called something like School Analytics or School Data Analysis or something like that. You may find other options there. There's other things here which are really just for admins, but you're looking for the report with a little report icon just there. Click on the report. This is a link, so you can just click on it. And it brings up a copy of the report. This is the front page of the report. And yours, of course, will be slightly different, but what I'm going to do now is show you how to use it. So this page is a summary page, and it just tries to show you some key metrics that are most useful to you as a school. So you'll see here we've got the total number of pupils, the percentage attendance year to date. So that's from the 1st of September of the current academic year. What the persistence absentee level is for the current year to date, from the 1st of September to whatever today's date is. And then how many of your pupils are pupil premium, EAL, a count of how many pupils are SEN, and the percentage that are white British. Right in here in the middle, we've got a graph that shows us how many pupils we've got in each year group. We've also got one that shows us what the percentage attendance year to date is for each of those individual year groups. I'm going to have a look first of all at this graph here, the count of pupils by year group, because it shows some really useful techniques that you can use with other graphs as well. So the first technique I'm going to show you is how to drill up and down in a graph. Notice that when I hover the mouse over some white space in this particular graph, a set of icons pops up above the graph, and it does it for the majority of the graphs on here. And when you see those icons appearing, that means you can drill up and drill down into the graph. It also gives us some other options which we might be able to go through later. But the drill up and drill down buttons are these arrows. A drill up button, a drill down button, and two more types of drill down button just there, which we'll explore. So the first one I'll show is the drill up button. And we're working here obviously on this pupils by year group graph. And when I click drill up here, you'll see what it does is it goes to the next level in a hierarchy. So it's aggregated year 7, 8 and 9 into Key Stage 3. And it's given us the total number of pupils that we have in Key Stage 3 here, the total number of pupils we have in Key Stage 4 and 5. And you'll also notice something that happens to this graph, whatever state it's in, is also when we hover over it, it's giving a little breakdown of how many pupils are EAL, SEN, pupil premium, and persistent absentees. So that's drilling up with this upward pointing arrow. And you'll also see an option to drill up pops up in a few other places as well. We've got a drill down option here, which I'm not going to use at the moment. We've got a drill through option, which I'll talk about in a minute. But let's just concentrate on drilling up and drilling down. My favourite drill down button, the one I use most often, is this one. It looks like a fork. And what happens when I click on that button is it goes back down the hierarchy. So there we're back to the original state of this particular graph. Now, if I click it again, we actually get down to registration group level. And because there are so many registration groups in our school, so you see it's showing me the total number of pupils in each registration group there. But because there are so many, it's put the scroll bar on the bottom there. So if it gets too big, look for the scroll bars across the side there. Now that's it, yeah, it's a little bit small that, but we've always got an option. Again, this works on every visualization. If there's not enough space for it, we can go into focus mode. If we click on focus mode, it just brings it up to full size. And now I don't need to use any scroll bars at the bottom. Works in the same way. So again, if I hover over registration group 10F, again, it's giving me that particular breakdown. But what it also allows me to do is use the drill through button here. I'll just digress slightly and talk about the drill through button because this is a good example. If I wanted to know who the pupils in 10F actually are, I can drill through to a pupil list there. The pupil list will give me a list of all the pupils in that particular registration group. So there's all the pupils in 10F, and it's showing me their percentage attendance, what year they're in, whether they're a persistent absentee, yes or no, whether they're EAL, English as an additional language, what their ethnicity is, and all these other really useful bits of information. And again, you've got a scroll bar at the bottom that allows you to see the whole width of that. And if you wanted to, because somebody always wants to do this, you can export this data by clicking on the three dots in this top corner. So there's the three dots in the top corner of this particular list, and there's export data there. So you can export the data, and if I clicked on that, it would take me to a little dialog asking what kind of Excel format file we want there. So that's a drill through. So the drill through has taken us to this particular screen. Well, now I'm going to drill back, and the way to drill back is to just use this back button here. Click once on the back button, and that takes me through back to my original visualization. Now, I could leave it like that if I wanted to, but if I want to just leave it as I found it, I could just click the drill up button here, and that takes it back to the original format, which is nice and neat and tidy for the year groups. Just while we're here then, before we move on, I'm going to right click again. I'm going to right click on the 170 pupils in year 9. That's a right click. Look, we get some more options there. We get the drill up and drill down options and the drill through options. Let's have a look at some more drill through options. If I'm particularly interested in the attendance of those particular pupils, I can drill through to the attendance year to date list. So that will give me a breakdown of the attendance for each of those pupils for the current year to date. Now, I'm doing this in the early days of September, so there's a lot of zeros there. But this will give you a little breakdown of why a pupil has been absent from school over a given period of time. So using the back button there just to take me back to this report. Here we are back in the original report. Let's talk about drilling down in a little bit more detail. If you remember last time I mentioned there's the drill up button, but there are 1, 2, 3 drill down buttons there, and they work in a slightly different way. I'm going to use this button now. Previously I used this one that looks like a fork, but I'm going to show you how this one works now, this particular drill down button. The way this works is you click on it first, and that enables drill mode. And when drill mode is enabled, I can go to year group 10, click on year group 10, and now when it will drill down into year group 10 and just filter everything. So the whole thing now is filtered to show us year group 10. So all the other graphs are filtered, and these other graphs are just showing us the details for year 10. So there's 168 pupils in year group 10. The attendance for those pupils is 99%. None of them are persistent absentees, and there's the pupil premium percentages, the EAL percentages, how many are SEN, and how many are white British. So by using drill down mode, we do a lot more than just drill down into one graph. We drill down into all the graphs on this page. So that can be a really useful feature, the ability to drill down into a specific year group. Now, sometimes when we've done that, once we've drilled down into a particular year group, we can find it difficult to sort of get back to the original state of the graph. So I've drilled down into key stage 4 there, and I want to go back to just the default state for the graph. There is this green button here, which I find really useful. It resets all the filters and slices, so that if you ever end up with a graph that seems to be some data missing, or you just filtered down to a very small number of pupils, click this green button here. That will refresh and reset all the filters, and the visualizations will all reset to their default state. So that's a useful little tip. Now, another feature of almost any page, I think, in Power BI is an ability to filter other graphs based on the contents of a specific data point. I'll show you what I mean. In my particular school here, I've got 29 Italian pupils here. If I click on that data point, click on that little bar, what happens now is all the other visualizations filter themselves to just show those Italian pupils. We saw it a few minutes ago when I drilled in on a key stage, but this is another way of doing the same thing. So now all this page is showing us where those Italian pupils sit within those graphs. So it's telling us that there's the 29 pupils, but it's worked out what the percentage attendance is for those Italian pupils. And it's also worked out what year groups they're present in across the school there. And you'll see their attendance is also listed on this graph here. You'll also see the pupil premium breakdown of those Italian pupils. So that's another way of filtering the graph so that you can see specific demographics, groups of pupils. If I want to go back to the full graph, I can click into some white space on the original ethnicity graph, and that means all the other graphs will go back to the default state there. Filtering is really important, and we try and provide as many filters as possible, because with the best will in the world, you want to find individual pupils who you can make an intervention with. So for this purpose, we've tried to use this filter pane and stress how useful this filter pane is when you want to look at certain smaller groups of pupils. So quite often we will already have filtered. We've already filtered year 7 attendance there. You don't need to put another filter on there. But there's sometimes things come up and you need a more flexible filter. And that's what this filter pane is for. Be aware that it might have been minimized. So sometimes it looks like that. You can minimize it and maximize it by clicking on little chevrons just there. Just move this to the side here. And what we've got here are filters at various different levels. You may only be seeing filters on all pages. So you'll certainly have a section that says filters on all pages, and that's what I'm going to focus in on now. Because this is where, for example, if we want to know all about our EAL pupils, well, there is a little summary there that we have 17.16% of EAL pupils, but there's also a filter here that allows us to sort of maximize that filter using the little arrow button there. But we can choose yes. I've got 177 pupils who are EAL, and if I click on yes there, you'll notice that the filter pane here develops this yellow colour so that we know there's an active filter there. But now again, this summary page is now just filtering to show just the EAL pupils, 177 of them. So again, it's giving me a breakdown of where they are in terms of what year group they're in, where they are in terms of their geographical location, because here we've got their postcodes, and all the percentage attendance statistics that we might need alongside there. If you want to use this filter pane, it's really useful. I've tried to put down the side here as many different categories as possible. We've got house, persistent absentee, year to date, gender, various different filters on there. There's a default filter that is just showing pupils who are currently on roll, which is on there. Pupil premium. You can even filter for an individual pupil. So if you want to look for an individual pupil name, maybe not as useful on this screen, but bear in mind on other screens it might be more useful on other screens, and all these filters work on all the screens. Registration group, so if you want to just look at your particular registration group, remember you'll have to take some of these off. So if I was interested in zooming in on a particular registration group, I'd want to take off perhaps this EAL filter. So you could just untick the yes, or there's a little clear filter button in the top corner, and that will take that filter off. Now if I'm just interested in one particular registration group, because it's my registration group, I can expand that filter there. Let's say I've got 10B. I can click on 10B there, and now this is showing me just the statistics for just my registration group. And again, before I finish, remember to take that filter off. And it is important to remember to take these filters off, because when we go to another page, that filter is sticky and it will apply to the other pages as well. A few little tips. One thing I find useful, especially if I'm presenting data like this in a meeting, is the view button here. You can click on view and you can go full screen, and that just gets rid of all the extraneous gubbins from the rest of your screen. You can really then just focus in on the data itself quite simply there. When you want to go back, I think you head the mouse up to the top of the screen, and there's a little cross button that pops up, and you can click on that and go back to full view. Finally, just a couple of tips that I found useful over my time. If you want to embed some of these visualizations in a Word document, there's an option here when you hover over it to copy it as an image with a caption, and that will pop, I think, a version into your clipboard, which you can then paste into Microsoft Word or Excel or whatever it needs to be. Just get rid of that. You've also got options to export the data. I mentioned this before, but you can export the data there to a CSV file. Again, if you're in a meeting and you just want people to concentrate on one particular graph, you can highlight that particular graph with the option there. And there are various export options down the side here. So there's an Analyze in Excel option. You might need to have some extra software installed for that one, but the PowerPoint option and PDF option will create either slides or A4 pages based on the contents of this page automatically for you. Okay, well, that's the first page, and there's a lot of pages in this report. I won't go through them all in this short video, but I'll just highlight one or two other pages that I think are especially useful or that demonstrate some features that you can use on all the pages. After the summary page, I think one of the most useful pages is what I call the attendance timeline. So if you click on the attendance timeline there, up comes this page. Now, I haven't used this page so far this year, and I last used it in the previous academic year, so it's not actually showing any data. The reason it's not showing any data is because the end date on this slider here is set to the 15th of the 4th, 2025. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to extend that so it goes all the way to the end. And what you can see now is the data from June. I've only brought attendance information from June across on my copy here because it's just a testing copy. But just on this particular page, just make sure you've always got the end date right on the end there. Another way you can do that is just by clearing the filter. There's a clear filter button just there, which will mean you get everything from the earliest date to the last date in terms of attendance marks. So this particular visualization is looking at attendance marks, every single forward slash, backslash, I for illness, M for medical appointment, every single code is being analysed here. And I've only got about 3 months worth of data here. You'll have something more like 2 years or even 3 years worth of data to analyse on your school copy. So this graph will probably go in back in time at least 2 years, like I say, possibly 3 years. So the earliest date there will probably be 2 years ago. But you can narrow it down. So if you want to use the start and end dates here, you can look at a smaller period of time. But the idea here is that what we're seeing is the attendance, in this case, month by month. Now, it doesn't have to be month by month, because you've possibly noticed already that when I hover over this graph, look, we get the drill up and drill down buttons on here. And I'm going to go straight to this drill down button here, the one that looks like the fork. And I'm going to click on the drill down button. At the moment, we're looking at it month by month. You can see June, July, and September are listed on the graph at the bottom. But if I click this button again, it goes down to the next level in the hierarchy. In this case, it's looking at week by week percentage attendance. So again, it's looking at the whole school and it's looking at every single mark, but this time it's working out the weekly attendance for that particular week. And we can even take it down another level, which is to daily attendance. So now you can see we've got day by day attendance down there, and that goes really wide. So again, we've got the scroll bar on the bottom here, and that's why you might want to change the start date to have a look at a more limited time period. I'm just going to pick the time period from the 1st of September. There we go. So that's day by day attendance available to you if you want it. You've got day by day attendance on this attendance timeline. If you want to focus in on particular year groups, for convenience here, we've got one of these, what they're called slicers, which enable you to select a year group. So if I want just year 7, there we go. If I want year 8, I can click year 8, and I can click year 9 as well there. So that gives a way of doing a whole key stage at a time. If I want to select them all, I've got an option to select them all. And there we go. Also on this one, notice there's a button at the bottom that says on roll. And in its default, it will pick up all marks. But if you just want the marks for the pupils who are currently on roll, you've got an option there of clicking yes. And that will just show you the percentages, including the pupils who are currently on roll as of today. You can drill back up again. So don't forget, you've got all these options to drill back up to weekly, and then back up to monthly. I've got a little extra filter on here, so if you remember, I open that filter up and I can see all the data that I've got available, which in my case is just a measly 3 months, but you'll have a lot more. Don't forget you've got the filter pane at the side. So if you wanted to just look at your particular registration group, now that filter is just showing me the percentage attendance for my particular registration group, 10B. Or I can take that filter off and just have a look at the attendance for SEN code K pupils. There we go. So it's a very, very flexible screen. And just before I forget, if you have got a year 11 and you want to exclude the attendance for just year 11 pupils just from June and July, or just for June and July, there's a slider here that allows you to do that. So if you want to exclude year 11s in June and July, deselect Y and just have N selected, and that takes out those particular attendance marks, just like the DFE will do eventually later on in the year. Okay, here's the absence map. Selected this one just to show you as being a graph that again shows some slightly different techniques here. So again, this is looking at, well, this is looking at specifically absent, pupils who are absent. And it's naming them, so we get into the names of these pupils, but it also lets us focus in on the last day, or the last 2 days or 3 days. And you'll see here we've got a choose date option here, so we can pick pupils who've been absent in the last, well, I've put 2 days in here, I'll put 1 day in here, so it's just pupils who've been absent over the course of today. So that's today's date, 18th of September. And that puts those pupils on this map here, so you can first of all see where they live. You can see I've got test data here, which is why they spread all over the country, but yours will be more geographically closer. And a lot of schools would like to use that so they can identify maybe areas where they have a problem in terms of buzzes, or where maybe if you're going knocking on doors, you can take a few pupils off on the same street. But what you can do with this is you can have a look at why they have been off. So we can selectively look for marks here. So we might be interested in, I don't know, all the pupils who were late after the registers are closed. So what I can do here is I can just go for the U code, which is late after registers closed down there. And now this graph focuses in on just the pupils who have a U code registered for them in the last 1 day, i.e. today. So we can identify those nice and quickly. You might want to look for unauthorized absences. And if you want to look for them both, you can just click them both. So that's unauthorized absences and pupils who are late, and it lists them there. You can look at whatever range of dates you want. So maybe you're more interested in the last 5 days, change that to 5 days. You can do that. If you want to look at longer periods of time, you've got the options for weeks, months, or even years in there. So that's the absence map, a really useful function.